Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. So today we are beginning our journey with a very important topic in English literature, and that is literary criticism. Now, many students they get worried and scared when they hear the words like criticism, theory, interpretation, analysis because they feel that these are very difficult words. But today in this class, I'll explain everything in a very simple way. So relax, we will go step by step. First, we'll understand what is criticism. Then we'll see what is literary criticism. Then we will understand where did literary criticism begin. Lastly, we'll see what are the main types of criticism. By the end of the session, you will feel that this topic is very easy and also very interesting. So let us begin with the most basic question. What is criticism? In very simple words, if I have to put, criticism means giving a judgment or an opinion about something. It can be positive, it can be negative, and it can be also mixed. For example, if I have to say that the dress that you're wearing is beautiful, the film that I've seen is very long, the song is very emotional, the food is very tasty, but it is little salty. So, all these are examples of criticism because you are judging something. So, criticism is not very something strange to us. We do it every day, isn't it? You are not just seeing things, you are actually evaluating it. So, remember this simple definition criticism means judgment plus opinion plus evaluation. Let me give you another example. Imagine you are going to a restaurant. A dish comes in front on your table. You look at the dish and you say, it looks very nice. The smell is also good. The food is tasty, but it is little spicy. The service was little late. I wish it would have been little earlier. Now, what are you doing over here? You are becoming a food critic. Why? Because you are judging the dish. You are noticing the strengths and the weaknesses. You are giving your opinions. So, criticism is not something strange. We do it in our daily life. Whenever we say that something is good, this is weak, this is strong, this is effective, this is disappointing, we are actually doing criticism. Now, if I say that what is literary criticism? Literary criticism means the study and the evaluation of literature. Criticism means judging something, and literary criticism means judging, analyzing, and interpreting literature. In other words, when we read poem, novel, play, short story, drama, and then we discuss what it means, how it is written, how the characters have behaved, what are the themes in it, what message does it give, what style has been used by the writer, what is the social background, what is the context, what is the matter. So, this all comes under literary criticism. So, literary criticism means the study and the evaluation of literature. Now, suppose you watch the movie Bahubali, and after watching it, you say that the film shows power and kingship. The women portrayed are also very strong. The class difference is quite visible. The hero is larger than life. The visuals are grand, and the story is based on conflict, power, loyalty, and revenge. Now, this is not simple watching anymore. This is analysis. This is critical thinking. In the same way, when we read a poem or a novel and ask deeper questions, we are doing literary criticism. Now, what is the difference between reading and criticism? This is very important. Example, a normal reader says, after reading a poem that I liked the poem. But a critic would say, why did I like it? What is the main theme in it? What is the language that is used in the poem? He will also ask, what is the tone used? Is it sad? Is it ironic? Is it romantic? Or is it serious? What does the poem say about the society, love, class, gender, war, identity, or human life? Now, the critics, they look at the theme, like what is the central idea of a work. They look at the structures, how the work is arranged. They will look at the style, what kind of language is used. They will look at the characters, how are people presented in a work. They will look at the context, what social or cultural background is used there. They will look at the meaning, what hidden meaning or interpretation can be found. So a critic, they go much deeper. A reader enjoys, but a critic examines. That's the difference. Now, criticism does not mean fault finding. In this context, I want to say that the term criticism does not mean only fault finding, being negative, or simply identifying errors in a text. Instead, it refers to a structured intellectual process of analyzing, interpreting, and evaluating literature to understand it better. So, in daily life, many people think that criticism only says bad things. That is not true. In literature, criticism does not mean only fault finding, it means understanding, interpreting, appreciating, evaluating, and sometimes questioning. So, criticism can be positive, negative, or balanced. A critic is a very intelligent reader. Now, why do we study criticism? Students often ask, why do we study criticism? We study criticism because it helps us to understand literature more deeply. It helps us to think more critically. It improves the interpretation. It connects literature with life and society. It expresses our ideas very clearly, and it prepares for exams like UGC NET, CUET PG, MA English, and other university exams. Okay, so criticism teaches us not just to read, but to read more intelligently. It trains our mind, it gives confidence. When we study criticism, you stop being a passive reader, you become an active reader. Now, example, suppose two students are there and they are reading the same poem. The first student says, nice poem. The second student says, this poem uses simple language, but the theme is deep. It reflects loneliness, and the poet here has used imagery to show the emotional emptiness. Now, tell me, who is thinking more critically? Of course, the second student. That is the power of literary criticism. A good critic also creates meaning. A good critic helps reader see things they may not notice on their own. Now, let's see the origin of the word criticism. The term criticism comes from the Greek word kritikos, which means to judge. So the idea of criticism is very old. It grew in different traditions. It is not new. And do you know this? That Dryden is the first one who used the term criticism in Preface to the State of Innocence. Now, people were thinking about literature, poetry, art, and performances from the ancient times only. Let's go back to the classical period. And some of the most earliest major examples include Plato's idea of poetry, who questioned poetry philosophically. Aristotle's Poetics gave the first systematic critical analysis of poetry and drama. And Natya Shastra in Indian literature also, they gave about or talked about literary criticism. So, literary criticism is not only Western. India also has very rich tradition of thinking about literature and drama. So, if we talk about the beginning of literary criticism in Greco-Roman world, two names are very important that we need to keep in mind. First one is Plato, then is Aristotle. Okay, Plato, he discussed about poetry in dialogues and gave important ideas about poetic creativity. On the other hand, Aristotle's Poetics is considered one of the most fundamental works in literary criticism. It is the first attempt at a scientific study of drama, especially Greek tragedy. I hope you'll remember this. So, if anybody asks you, you will say that Plato and Aristotle are the earliest major critics. And if I ask you that, tell me, in Indian tradition, who is the major critic or the earliest major critic? Remember, it is Bharat Muni's Natya Shastra. It serves as a guide for the playwrights, actors, and directors, and is often studied by critics to understand the Indian aesthetics theory. And do you know, in Tamil also or Dravidian tradition, Tolkappiyam is one of the earliest and the most important works that is connected with literary form, grammar, and rhetorics. Now, even today that the class is only about literary criticism, many students they get confused between what is literary criticism and what is literary theory. So let me make it more clear to you. Literary theory is I'll give you an example for it. Suppose again you are watching this movie Bahubali. Okay? If you wear the lens of feminism, you will ask, what is the role of women in this film? What are the perspectives, or are the women's respected in this movie? Are they powerful or are they controlled? Do they get their own voices? Okay, now imagine you put off that lens of feminism and wear the lens of Marxism. Then you will ask, who has the power, who has wealth, who rules and who obeys? In society, is it divided into classes? So, Marxist critics, they will ask these questions. Now, if you wear the lens of a psychoanalysis, you will ask what desires, fears, or inner conflict drive the characters. Now, you will wear the lens of post-colonialism. You will ask who dominates whom? How is the power connected with identity and culture? So, theory, it gives you the method or the lens. And criticism, on the other half, is the actual act of applying ideas and judging the text. So, very simple formula. Literary criticism means it is the actual analysis and the evaluation of a text. But what is literary theory? It means that it gives you the ideas, the tools, or the lenses through which you will read. Now, theory is the lens. It will tell you how you will look at a text. Criticism is the act of looking through that lens. Criticism will tell us what we see and how we explain it. Example, feminism is a theory and a feminist reading of Hamlet is criticism. Same way, Marxism is a theory and a Marxist reading of Hard Times is criticism. Now, the timeline of literary criticism. These are the major stages in literary criticism. You don't have to panic seeing this list. Just understand that literary criticism has changed over time. Different period asks different questions. Let's see. The first one was classical criticism. Then came Roman criticism. Then came Renaissance criticism. Then came Enlightenment criticism. Next up is Romantic criticism. Then came Victorian criticism. After that, modern age criticism. Then is new criticism. And lastly, we have literary theory. So, classical critics, they often focused on order, form, imitation, and rules. Romantic criticism, this stage, it includes critics like Horace and Longinus. Roman critics, they often paid attention to decorum, style, sublimity, and the functions of poetry. Britannica's history of criticism places classical critics and Roman criticism as the foundational stages. Now, next up we have neoclassical, or it is also called as Enlightenment criticism. Now, this stage, it values orders, balance, rules, reason, correctness, and restraint. It often linked with standard, discipline, and classical models. Next is romantic critics. They focused more on imagination and emotions and poets' creativity. Then comes Victorian critics. They often connected with literature, with morality and culture and civilization. Next up, we have modern critics. They are more analytical. In the early 20th century, criticism becomes more analytical and method based. Questions of language, form, image, ambiguity, and structure becomes very important and strong here. New criticism, it becomes very influential in the Anglo-American criticism in the mid 20th century. It emphasized on more of close reading of the text and self-contained objects. And literary theory, it brought many new approaches like Marxism, feminism, structuralism, then post-structuralism, psychoanalysis, and many more. So criticism, it kept on evolving. It grew with the society. It grew with new ideas. Now, we'll see some of the major types and classifications of criticism. It is theoretical criticism, practical criticism, impressionistic criticism, affective criticism, descriptive criticism, and perspective criticism. Now, let us see this in a very easy language. Theoretical criticism, if we say, this is criticism which is based on principles and ideas. It asks questions like what is literature? What should poetry do? What are the rules of art? So, this is more idea based. Next is practical criticism. This is when you take an actual poem or a text and analyze it more closely. You are directly dealing with the text. Next up, we have is impressionistic criticism. This is based on personal feeling or impression. For example, the poem creates sadness in me. This novel feels dreamlike. It focuses on the critic's personal response. Next is affective criticism. This looks at the emotional effect of the work of the reader. For example, does the poem shock the reader? Does the drama create pity and fear? Next is perspective criticism. This tells us what literature should do. It gives us rules, ideas, advices, or standards. For example, a tragedy should have this, a poetry should have that. Okay? Next is descriptive criticism. This describes the work in details without strongly judging it. It explains what is present in the text. Next up, we have biographical criticism. This studies literature in relation to the author's life. For example, if we read Sylvia Plath's poem through her personal struggles, that is biographical criticism. Next is comparative criticism. This compares two texts, authors, traditions, or literature. For example, comparing Kalidas and Shakespeare, or comparing Ramayana's telling in different languages. Next is feminist criticism. This studies the representation of women, patriarchy, gender role, silencing of women, and power relation. Example, reading Jane Eyre by asking how women negotiate power and freedom. Next is Marxist criticism. This studies class, labor, money, ideology, exploitation, If we take the movie Article 15, a Marxist or a social criticism lens can help us discuss hierarchy, power, exclusion, and injustice. Next is psychoanalytical criticism. This studies desire, repression, unconscious motives, dreams, fear, guilty. Next up, we have formalist criticism. This focuses on form, structure, imagery, language, pattern, the techniques also. Next up, we have the reader response criticism. This focuses on the reader's role in creating meaning. Next is historical criticism. This studies the text in relation to the historical period. Lastly, we have cultural criticism. This reads literature in relation to larger cultural practices and the power structures. Now, if I have to give example, if I say that you are watching a Bollywood film and we are discussing a movie. So biographical criticism, it will tell what if the director's own life is influenced by this film. Impressionistic criticism will ask, I personally found this film very emotional. Affective will ask, this film made the audience cry. Descriptive will tell that the film has three main characters, village setting, and a tragic ending. Now, perspective will say the film should have had a stronger climax. Then, theoretical will say what should cinemas ideally do? Entertain or educate or question society? Feminist criticism will tell us how are women shown strong, weak, silent, or independent. Comparative criticism will tell us that whether the movie is similar to another movie or text. Now you can see that these are types of literary criticism. Okay, so students, today we began our journey into the world of literary criticism. We understood that criticism is not simply only fault finding, it is the art of thinking, judging, interpreting, and understanding deeply. So, whenever we look closely at a poem, a play, or a novel, or even a movie and ask deeper questions, we are entering the world of criticism. And this is just the beginning. In the coming classes, we will move step by step into classical or ancient criticism. Then we will discuss about what is romantic criticism. We will discuss what is Victorian criticism, who are the critics involved in Victorian criticism, what is new criticism, what is theory. So stay connected, keep learning, and most importantly, don't be afraid of literature. In the next class, we will begin in detail with classical and ancient criticism, talking about Plato and Aristotle, because they are the first major pillars of literary criticism. Literature becomes beautiful when you understand it slowly. Thank you so much for watching my first video. If you like this session, do share it with your friends and continue learning with me. So, see you in the next class. Thank you.